Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to finish up this week of songs to cry to, looking at our final track that hopefully will make me a little wet in the eyes. That's a weird way to phrase that. Make me tear up a little bit. I have a theory about why it hasn't happened yet, and I said it the other day, but I don't know. Maybe this will be the one. Today we have Ruth Moody. The track is Life is Long. Let's dive into this and see what's going on. Very folky. Very prominent vocals, a little bit of reverb on them. We have some plucked strings, I think, lining up with our bass hits, the bass kick hits. And lots of embellishing lines throughout this. Passing the melody on from our vocals to our tin whistle or flute, not sure.
And things have changed. Your spirits return from whence it came. Still the ocean sounds the same, and the trees whisper your name, and they whisper you once said to me, we have time, lovers, life is long.
I love the dancing strings. There's that plucked sound I was talking about.
Reach for your spirit and join you in song. Life is long, love, life is long. Life is long, love, life is long. We have time, love, we have time. Life is long, love, life is long.
I really like the warm, positive outlook on this track.
Had you known when you spoke these words,
I just realized that our
time had come.
guitar and our vocals are landing on the same key notes.
You may never have spoken so. Still I hear your voice singing life is long.
Nice swells, slowly bringing these layers back through fades.
Life is long, love is long.
All right. It's it's interesting to hear parallels between some of the songs all week as far as chordal width and repetition and just kind of an overall staticness that happens. It's I know this is a very small selection of songs that make people cry, but I do think it's interesting that there's more than one through line that kind of ties them together compositionally. This is not normally a topic that I would bring up in a more subjective theme like this. It's usually something I would talk about at the end of a week for a genre theme. This is what I've picked up across all this, all these songs, that this genre typically has this compositional technique and this compositional technique and aims for this specific, atmosphere and stuff like that, where I start to piece together what a genre is composed of. And it's like I said, it's not something I usually get to talk about on a subjective theme like this because there's usually less consistency between the tracks. But it's really interesting to hear how kind of similarly crafted the structures to a lot of these songs are. And I wonder if there is an underlying thing about um, simplistic songs being a bit more effective at being emotionally resonant. And I don't mean that the songs themselves are simple, they're just structured simpler. They're structured more simply than other songs that maybe don't resonate as well with people. And maybe more structure also just kind of implies something larger. We would not typically call a song epic if it does the verse, chorus thing. That's not a real big epic thing to do. When we think of epics, we think of lots of sections. We think of rhapsodies. We think of linear tracks that are constantly moving to new ideas. Those are epic. And maybe this is just an aspect of sad songs is simplicity. It feels a bit more sincere or human, possibly. I don't know. I just wasn't expecting to hear this song and think, oh, that part reminds me of this, or, these instruments remind me of this other song we checked out, or something like that. Um, it's also interesting listening to this back to back with yesterday's X Ray, because there's a lot of similarities going on there as well. Anyways, let's stop talking about other songs and let's dive into Ruth Moody's Life is Long. What is going on here? We have a very intimate song. Our vocals are very front and center. There are certainly sections, especially when they're isolated, that feel like they are right in front of me. Like I'm being sung to face, which, like I mentioned yesterday, makes me a little uncomfortable at times. I prefer a little bit of distance between me and the singer. Um, and that also has a few instruments in the same channel as our vocalist. We have a bass drum. Earlier I called it a bass kick. It might still be, but it feels larger and more resonant, which makes me think it's more of a symphonic bass drum. They tend to be bigger than a drum kit's bass drum, and to me, it's a boomier sound, more so than being a punchy sound, which is something we typically hear in, especially rock and metal drum kits, the way they're tuned and sized. Um, and there's occasionally some light melodic instruments. Sometimes I thought I heard maybe a piano, a very light piano, and then other times I thought I heard plucked instruments, but they're all very light. It isn't until these instruments hit the side channels that I really begin to hear them with volume. So the center is primarily the bass drum and our vocals. Surrounding that, we get all of our nice instruments. We get our guitars and our violins and pianos and whatever else we have, secondary vocals. Everything else just kind of surrounds our vocalist here in the center, and it all is quiet. Not quiet's the wrong word, because it is the same volume as pretty much every other song out there. I'm using a very standard volume limiter right now that I use for pretty much everything on YouTube. I set my volume at negative 6 dBs. Um, so it's not a quiet song. There's very few moments that aren't at the max volume, but it feels quieter. I think a better word would be spacious. I hear the instruments, but it's not a full sound. This is very different from listening to post rock, which does its best to fill the sound sphere. This does the opposite. It specifically leaves space in the sphere. You can feel like they are a bunch of instruments in a larger room, more so than the instruments filling up the room or feeling like they are too large for the room. And through that, at least to me, it makes it very um, personal, very intimate. It is basically you, the listener, with a bunch of, a sparse amount of instruments in a very large room. It's just, you and them with all of the space around you. And the closeness of the vocals also ties into that, plus the vocal style. It's very calm and collected and very, not safe. What's the word I want? Uh, Comfortable. That's the one I want. It feels like our vocalist is in a very comfortable range, not really pushing too hard or having to really put air pressure behind it to hit any notes. Everything's just at a very comfortable range for them. Volume wise, it feels like they're just kind of speaking. It isn't elevated, it's projected but not amplified, if that makes any sense. It's not like it's withdrawn and kind of unenergetic. There is power behind it. It is a projected style of singing, but it isn't amplified. It isn't loud. It's utilizing air pressure without adjusting volume, which is one of the most basic things I'm sure vocalists learn, as well as anyone playing an aerophone. I had to go through this learning the trumpet. Just because you put more air through it doesn't mean it needs to get louder. You just want that full sound, that full tone, which is what she's going for. She gets a very full tone without getting a lot of that volume behind it. And all of this just kind of feels very, very intimate, very vulnerable. Um, we pair the vocals with the instruments around them. And these instruments do some really fun things. They're constantly trying new ideas. I don't think the song is linear. In fact, lyrically, I'm pretty sure we had a bouncing back and forth of ideas. I don't know if we repeated verses, but we definitely had a chorus where she repeated ad nauseum, I think, life is long or something along those lines. We came back to that section a couple of times. But musically, it felt linear to me. We were constantly adjusting the sounds going on, and maybe that's just how they wanted to go about writing it, where each verse has a different musical component. Each time we go to the chorus, there's slight embellishments or variations on it, which am a huge supporter of. I love when people do that. I'm not saying that is a bad thing at all. I'm not entirely sure what the structure is of the song, so I'm not sure how to speak about it yet. Um, we play around with a lot of different styles of playing as well. We have strings that come in. We have a tin whistle or a flute, something in that family that comes in. We get some nice texture harmonies off of them at the beginning. In fact, I think that's how it starts, is that duet. Um, and they're playing the exact same line, no harmony, playing the exact same notes. We just get that texture layering there, which is a beautiful texture layer. I love bowed instruments with, especially because, you can't just kind of tie up all the aerophones into a single tone. Saxophones have a different feeling to them than trumpets. And the same can be said for pretty much every instrument, but also I feel like, at least when it comes to strings, instruments tend to have very similar timbres. Not exact, of course, but similar enough depending on how you play them, if you bow it or if you pick it, they all kind of feel more similar than, like, say, a flute and a trumpet. They feel very different. Flutes also have a lot of airiness to them, whereas a bowed violin, it doesn't, by fact that there's no air being utilized to make the sound. But bringing those two together, it sounds great because I think they're so diametrically opposed as far as their timbre goes. One is warm and earthy, and the other one is bright and airy. And just bringing them together is like the perfect combination of opposites attracting kind of vibe. Just a really beautiful opening idea there. Um, and then we get more strings, and we continue to have these long held out melody lines. Not really moving fast, just hold a note and maybe a little flourish, a couple of notes to land back down on, where kind of like a do 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 do. We return where we start, but we have a little flourish in there. And then we pick another note, we land on it. Maybe there's some flourishes there, maybe there's not. And it's just this nice, natural, slow movement across our chords. And with multiple instruments doing it, with all of them playing different notes, we get moving chordal ideas. So we have this beautiful element going on underneath the vocals of laying down the elemental. Uh, what is this word? Emotional environment. I combine those two. The emotional environment from the chord progression underneath the vocals. We also have some ornamental ideas that are more like melodies, except they are sparse. We might play a little lick and then take some time off. Come back another bar or two later and play another lick and then take some time off. Because the focus is still on the vocals, which is pretty typical for the singer-songwriter style. You craft some emotionally engaging, sometimes melodically counterpointy lines, but it's all done to support the vocals. That's what everybody's listening for primarily. That's the main aspect, especially when you look at singer-songwriter stuff and where they came from. Lyrics are very key. You don't want to cover that up. So you always want to keep the vocals in the spotlight for this style of music. It makes sense that the instruments are downplayed a little bit. If there is counterpoint, like in that sparse melodic aspect, it needs to be sparse. It either needs to be lower down in volume so it's not competing, or you bring it up occasionally so that most of the focus can stay on the vocals. And this is just what happens at the beginning. We see a variety of these ideas with the strings and the whistle and the piano. They are always kind of changing up what they're doing. There was one moment about halfway through when we shifted from these long held out notes in the violins to everybody doing this plucked thing where we were creating a sort of Hocket. It almost felt like we had different pannings on our different violins, and so we would get hits from all the different areas of the song, and it would create a Hocketed effect where, even though it's the same instrument, same-ish timbre, the placement of the violin is what creates the Hocketed effect, where a single melodic line is divvied up between different instruments and they play one note at a time. So yeah, just having a little bit of dynamic contrast in the attack, the style of performance from the instruments is really nice. And then of course we also have other dynamic qualities of swells, crescendos and decrescendos, rising the volume and lowering the volume, so we get these peaks and valleys. We get nice little those nice little volume swells. We come up in volume, come down in volume, and it usually coincides with note changes as well. When we hit the peak, we'll change notes, and when we come down, we'll change a note at the bottom or something like that. And there's also passing around of ideas. I had mentioned, I think it was after the first chorus, our vocalist had a melody line they were repeating with this "Life is Long" lyric, and when she was done singing, a violin picked up on the melody that she was playing, that riff that she was doing, and began playing it there. So we do have a passing off of ideas as well, which is really nice. It creates cohesion between every aspect of the song because there is a lot of diversity going on and contrasting elements that passing ideas around and having callbacks to other moments is very necessary in order for the song to feel cohesive outside of the emotional aspect, which the chords don't really change. The song feels similar atmospherically from beat one to the last bar of the song. Speaking of that, I suppose that's the next good place to go. What is the atmosphere here? I had mentioned this is Songs to Cry to week, and during the reaction, I was like, this is a very pleasant, bright, happy track. And, I still stand by that. It's not exclusively bright and hot and happy. It's not like a pop track that is infectiously bouncy. But there is an optimism to this track that I don't think we've really heard much of this week. We did have one track. Oh, actually, yeah, it was yesterday's Pearl Jam that I talked about a little bit of optimism, but it was sort of the counter, right? He slipped into the optimism for a little bit and then came back out of it as a way to showcase his mental and emotional states regarding the events that the song was about. Most of the other stuff here, well, actually, never meant American football. Kind of had a little bit of positivity to it. And actually, also, yeah, so here we go again, talking about similar threads. For some reason, I kind of had the idea that everything this week's been kind of mellow, and it has, and another mellow vibe here. But there's been an aspect of positivity in the music. They haven't really dug into, full on depressive chord progressions. And that can be said here as well. There is a somberness to this. It is slow and downtrodden. It is not a song that celebrates anything, but there is positivity to it. There is hope to it. It might even be just happiness. I don't know if happiness is the right word given the rest of the atmosphere, but I do get a tinge of that. A little bit of happiness in here. And I don't know. I guess we'll have to dig into it and see what's going on there. With that said, I suppose let's dig into the lyrics. Um, I walk along this lonely strand at the ebbing of the tide. I have seen this place before. You were walking by my side. It was on this day 1 year ago that we came out to Geordie Bay, long before you closed your eyes and your body slipped away. Yeah, there's nothing really happy about this so far. This is somebody passed away and we have somebody going back out to a place where they have memories of, you know? And in this case out to the beach, it seems like taking a walk along the beach in a place that they have done 1 year ago. And kind of going down memory lane. And life was long, love, life was long. Life was long, love, life was long. We had time, love, we had time, for life was long. Okay. I'm wondering if they're gonna change this up because the title of the track is Life is Long, not Life was Long. Um and this might be more of what this person said while they were walking along the beach. Maybe they are younger people. Uh you know, maybe they feel like the whole life is ahead of them. They have so much time. As he says, life is long, and we have time. And obviously, they didn't, but this is the memory that our narrator is going through. Now 1 year has passed and things have changed. Your spirits return from whence it came. Still the ocean sounds the same and the trees whisper your name. And they whisper words you once said to me. We have time, love, life is long. So now I walk this path of memories, reach for your spirit and join you in song. And then we do go back to the chorus, except we swap out was for is. We get life is long, we have time. All right. So yeah, we have one more aspect here. Had you known when you spoke those words your time had come and you'd soon be gone, you may never have spoken, so still I hear your voice singing. Yeah, there is a little bit of positivity to this. There is the sadness, right, of losing someone, but at least to me, this song feels a little bit like our narrator has reached the acceptance phase of grief. And like I've mentioned before, you don't just hit acceptance and move on with life. It's sort of grief bounces between different aspects of it. Some days are worse than others, but having hit acceptance once, it's typically easier to get back to it or to stay in it longer or to just balance it, where you can have melancholic thoughts and still accept the passing and kind of have that duality of happiness and sadness, especially when you're looking on past memories like this, where our narrator has the sorrow of missing this person, but also the happiness of remembering these memories and cherishing the time that they had. And I think that's what the music is about here, where we do have a little bit of that brightness in a somber, mellow tune. It's not sad, like I said. It's just somber. I don't think you could ever look on memories of someone you've lost and feel happy. You can definitely feel some joy, especially as you remember the good times. But it's always going to be tinged with the sadness that you can't make new memories. And I think that's, like I said, I think that's what the song is. Not sad, but not happy, but positive and somber and pensive. A little bit of both, but not really either. It's difficult to put into words, but if you've been there, it makes perfect sense, I think. At least it makes sense to me. So those are my thoughts on Ruth Moody's Life is Long. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this or not, anything that stood out to you, anything you'd like to add on to what I said, or correct me on, anything like that. Um, what? Oh yeah, comments. I already did comments. Above the comment section is the description box. In there is a link for. Gotta find the button. Yeah, Linktree. That place right there has links for everything. You can join the Twitter, join the Discord, join the Patreon, support the channel through Patreon. Pick up some merch, submit special selections. There's just a bunch of stuff in there. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Greatly appreciate all three of those. We have a creator request today, which is where a smaller band gets in contact with me and I check out their stuff. You can stick around for that. If you're watching this live, it drops in less than a minute. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, Saturday, with an album review. I don't even remember what album we're doing, but it's going to be interesting, like all album reviews are. Sunday, we have our live stream for the patrons, and Monday, we'll be back with next week's theme. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.